Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to this Zoom session live stream. Happy Halloween, everyone. Hi, Cara. Oh, we're already live. The live stream's already live. Hello. I was just looking, I'm like, okay, is this going live? How's this going? And now I see something that says we're already live. So I'll spotlight myself and just a little introduction. It's so cool to have you here. Today, I have just spent the last 2 hours sketching, and we did between 30-second and 6-minute sketches. And the theme of this live stream, which is special for the Let's Face It Live series, is about starting strong. So a really core part of my practice the past 3 years in particular has been focusing on doing quick timed portrait sketches, which has enabled me to start, whether it's just a sketch or it's going to be part of a bigger piece and a longer pose, to be able to start with confidence and really get into the drawing, which is something I was acutely aware that I was lacking, because I would spend days working on a drawing before I started painting it and then not be happy with it. And now I'm able to approach it with a kind of lightness. And if it's not working out, I can just start again without feeling like I've invested days into this thing and it's not how I want it to be. So I feel like it's been really important and liberating for me. And this is what I would like to impart to you today. And we're going to do it in a super fun way, because we have some guests that are dressed up. And I see most of the people in the Zoom room at the moment have their camera and audio off. Feel free to turn your microphone on. I think it was just muted on entry, but you can turn it on. Cara, can I make you a co-host so you can let people in as they're joining?
Yes, you can.
Cool, thank you.
Maybe my magic wand will let everybody in.
Aha, your magic wand will let people in. Awesome. So I will now share my workspace with you, and I'll just give you a brief insight into what I've just been doing and what I do every Tuesday. And you're all welcome to come along and draw with us every Tuesday. But we had, some wonderful, also Halloween-themed poses, and have just been sketching. And it started, these were my 30-second portraits that I started with. So I've been doing these for years, and it's just about loosening up and being able to make a strong start. But today, right now, we're going to focus on 10-minute portraits. So I hope that a few of you who don't have your cameras on, maybe you would like to be drawn to. Otherwise, maybe over on YouTube, if some of you would like to be drawn, there's a link in the Facebook group for Let's Face It 24. And Robin's switching to Zoom. Awesome. So yeah, in Zoom, you can be drawn, and on YouTube you can watch and draw along. And this will also be there as a reference to draw upon and to draw from in future. But I'm just wondering if people aren't turning their cameras on, and there aren't too many who want to be drawn, then perhaps I could invite some of the people who were in the last session who maybe want to keep drawing now.
Yeah.
But we could or I'll bring up some of the screenshots from the last session, which were super cool, and we could perhaps we could work from those. That would be really cool as well. But let's start with a portrait of Cara, our wonderful host of Let's Face It. And I'm so thankful for you creating this space for people to learn together, and blessed to be invited to be a teacher and to share with people in this way. So thanks a bunch for that. It's super cool.
I'm very happy to have you here with me.
So I'll talk through my process a bit as I'm drawing. Feel free to ask questions, whether in YouTube or in Zoom. In Zoom, you can totally just feel free to speak up and ask questions. In these sessions, I really love just having a conversation. So feel free to ask and talk, unmute yourselves and be part of the conversation. All right, so this will be 10 minutes. So anyone who's posing, relax for the pose, be comfortable. And this is a wonderful, magical, is this a Mickey Mouse?
Oh wait, I have to let people in and pose.
That's okay, I can let people in as well.
You tricked me, Dylan. No,
just in case, if I get distracted, then you can do it too. But I've also got my eyes all over the place. So let's begin, and I'll talk through my process a bit as I do this. And I've been working with ink. I really like ink a lot. I'd love to know in the comments, in the chat, what you're working with. Ink has been a medium which has taught me so much about my mark making and being decisive. On the one hand, it can teach you to be really careful with mark making, but it can also just, or at the same time, perhaps also teach you to be accepting of the marks that you make and just to roll with it and incorporate whatever happens into your process. But in the early days, I definitely made a lot of drawings that I would probably rather not see again. Because it is also once you put it down, you can't really get rid of it. But I found it to be a really wonderful teacher in regards to that, just being clear about my mark making. And my hope for this session is for it to be informative and fun. So feel free to ask questions, because I really love interacting and engaging with people, and that's what we're here for, to learn together. So how many of these Let's Face It lives have there been so far, Cara?
This is number 4.
Cool.
Yeah.
So it's
I got it.
Oh, you got it. I got it.
Multitasking
We got
over
it.
here.
Excellent.
Yeah,
so,
these are fun. People really enjoy them, and I feel like we should do these through the year too.
Yeah.
It's fun to come together in person, you know?
Yeah, I think it's
a little more personable.
Yeah, that's something that I've just enjoyed so much, and it has been such a big thing since I started doing online, or since I started teaching at all. But with the online stuff, like the regularity, the convenience of it, it's a really cool way for people to come together. And
yeah, and forces you to make that time for the practice.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I'm not sure I've done anything with the regularity. Like I haven't even considered it discipline. I remember having a conversation with someone recently where I was like, "Oh, I don't think I'm really very disciplined," and they're like, "What? You're like drawing all the time?" They're like, "Yeah, but that's that's fun. It's not discipline." Yeah, but just being there and hosting and creating that space for people to come and draw together, that yeah, it's such a great space to practice for myself, but also just really enjoyable and rewarding, and being able to come together and see the work that people do and the other connections that people make with each other, and it's really cool.
Robin just joined and said took a few minutes to switch to Zoom, so we have Robin with us now.
All right, awesome.
Dylan, may I ask you a question?
You can ask me all the questions.
I'm wondering, do you have a rule for like erasing while you're working on something? Is it important to just stay, continue to draw, not start to erase anything?
With ink, I can't.
Okay.
I used to I used to erase a lot. So I actually had a teacher, and she noticed hesitation in my work, and I would redraw things all the time, and kind of hesitate a lot. And like we would meet weekly, and then she'd be like, oh yeah, this kind of looks very similar to what you did last week. And I feel like I spent days working on it, and it was almost the same drawing. So it was actually her guidance and her recognizing in my work. She was like, oh, you're really quite hesitant and reliant on erasing and redrawing. So maybe it'd be really, well, she didn't say maybe, she said it'd be really good for you to draw with ink. And so that started a process where I shifted to ink, and you can't erase it. And I spent about 4 to 5 years only working with ink. I really came to love it, like this kind of direct drawing, but also ink wash, which is similar to watercolor in a way. It's a really beautiful, subtle way of layering up your image. And I realized, I think it was 2 years ago, I did a 30 Faces, 30 Days challenge, which was pencil and pen. And it was the first time I'd used pencil for a long time. And I realized that my ink work had really informed the way that I use pencil. But now I feel like I have the confidence that I've learned from doing pen and ink. But because you can erase pencil, I think it can really serve what you're doing. So I don't have like a dogmatic rule about don't erase anything. Okay. Because it's like part of that medium is that you have the ability to erase, and it can be really interesting. And if you feel whatever you feel comfortable and good about doing, like if you make something like, oh, I think maybe I should redo this, then I think it's totally valid to go with what you feel is right. But the thing of working in ink, it made me very uncomfortable in the beginning. That kind of not being able to fall back on changing things. But in the long run, and I think it didn't take very long. Like once you really come to terms with it, I think it can really have a pretty dramatic effect on the way you choose to make your marks. But wherever you're at in your journey, if you feel like that's what you need to do, then totally do it. Like I don't think there's any rules. I've just found it very beneficial to do this kind of practice.
Hi, Claire.
Thank you. That's a great answer.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. Sorry that you're holding that wand up for so long, Cara.
Poor Cara.
I know. I should have learned last year when I did my cat. I was like, okay, this year I'm not playing the hard.
Yeah.
That's okay.
In the regular weekly meetings, the regulars learn that there are some things which are good for 30-second poses.
On a desk holding your head, right?
Yeah. But some things are very courageous and bold.
Well, we're just not well thought out. How about that?
Yeah. Oh, and today is the last day of the early bird discount, right? So if anyone, I know everyone in Zoom is signed up. That's awesome. If anyone's watching on YouTube who is not yet, but you're thinking about it, I've got a link in the description. If you sign up today, right now, you'll save money. And if you're watching this after the 31st of October, it's still great value.
It's true. But we still have a couple of $99 spots left.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, people should really snatch those up.
Yeah, awesome. So that's tomorrow it'll cost $30 more. So, yeah. But it's still really great value.
It is still a really good value. I agree with you.
Because it's
that's a pretty good drawing you did there.
Thank you. It's always interesting. I do a lot of live streams. If you're not yet familiar with what I do, and it's an interesting process. There was because sometimes it's like, okay, what am I doing? How am I gonna It's like really on the fly. A lot of my practice, like drawing with ink and doing timed drawing, a lot of it is about working within constraints, and particularly the time constraint. I feel it can be so beneficial because it really gets you like learning how to make quick decisions about what you think is going to work or what you think you could do. Yeah, it's a really interesting process.
Dylan, did you dip that in some ink?
Yes, yeah.
Okay,
So,
I was gonna say, it looked
so
like
this
it
is
was
the Pentel brush pen, and I've got it full of water, and I'm using it to dilute my ink. And if I want it to get really black, I have another brush on hand, so I can go straight to ink.
Nice.
But maybe this is an echo of that hesitancy that Rebecca saw in my work, is that I go in very careful. When I'm working with color, I like to layer up slowly, and so that was our 10 minutes.
Oh, shoot.
So well done. Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh wow, Joy.
I know.
Incredible. Ah, cool.
Got
So
a
good.
dragon with us.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Amazing. Cool. Thank you, Cara. Thank you for being our
You're
first
welcome.
muse for this session. So okay, let's draw Joy. I'm not sure how comfortable that is to wear, so we'll head over to Joy. That's
wow.
So cool. Wow, there's a lot going on there.
That's quite a bit.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I've had this map since 1986.
Really?
That's hilarious.
Oh wow.
I got it in P-Town in 1986, and it's one of my faves.
That's incredible. That's so impressive that it's still going. Cool. Thank you, Cara. I'll make Cara disappear for the moment, but feel free to speak and join the conversation, of course. Could you go slightly profile so we see some of the... Yeah, cool. Amazing. So these are 10-minute poses. Be comfortable.
I know there's a lot in the background. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's okay. So this is also I've taught live classes where I've had a lot in the background, and I've set something up, and then I hung a Persian rug in the background, and some people were just like, I don't know what to draw, and learning to filter things out. So some people may love the background and feel free to go right into that, but you can also you don't have to draw everything that's there. It's part of our gift and the opportunity we have when we're drawing things to choose what we would like to emphasize and draw. So the background's perfect, and so are you. All right, let's start. So cool. I have an idea, which I often do in my live streams. I'll put the timer up so everyone can see it, and then you have a sense of how long we got. An interesting thing of this method of practicing is just people often ask where do you start, and doing a lot of sketching where there's a really tight time frame. I feel like I've developed a way of just kind of going with whatever grabs my attention and kind of expanding from there. So maybe through close observation, people could notice patterns, but to me, it feels like really non-systematic. It's just like whatever catches my eye, I'll just get to it and start drawing. And I feel like so like I said earlier, I feel like it's helpful if you're starting a longer piece and you want to have a dynamic start to your drawing process, and maybe it's going to be whatever medium you're working in, and however long you're perhaps going to paint onto the drawing, but just having a dynamic quality to the initial drawing, I feel in my practice has really brought a lot of joy to it for me. And every method of transfer to like a painting substrate is valid. Whatever people want to do, I think, is totally valid. But I just personally noticed that I really enjoy the drawing phase, and it's an ongoing journey of that practice of just learning how to draw by observation. But I feel like it's super rewarding. And then also I think it translates really well to like a live drawing situation as well. Because if you like you're not in the studio and you'd like to draw something, don't have much time, I feel like, well, I'm really aware that I've developed a lot more confidence over the past years doing this consistent practice. Where this year I've started drawing at some live events, doing quick portraits at events and stuff, which a few years ago I definitely wouldn't have had the confidence to do. Who made this mask?
I have no idea.
That's so cool.
It's kind of spongy, styrofoamy stuff. So
Yeah.
I have a Wonder Woman one also.
Cool.
I wore that earlier. Today's my birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
Wow, what an auspicious day to be born on.
Hey.
It's a fun day for a birthday.
Yeah, that's amazing. So how are Halloweens for you?
Well, I'm getting older now, so they're more. I celebrate Halloween and try to forget the birthday part.
Oh, wasn't there something else that happens on this day?
Yeah. But I live on Cape Cod, so I don't know how familiar you are, but we always try to go down to P-Town tonight, and it's quite a party.
Cool. Yeah, I'm from Australia. I currently live in Germany, and Halloween wasn't really celebrated in Australia. It may be more now, but in Germany, it's gaining momentum. Like we were hanging out with friends today, and I'm 40, and people around my age in Germany said that it wasn't a thing when they were kids, but now like it's great. We do it with our kids, and saw lots of kids getting around town tonight dressed up, and it's really cool. Oh, I think Robin's just said in the chat that happy birthday. I'm about 45 minutes north. Perhaps I only saw part of the message abbreviated. And if people are watching on YouTube and writing questions, I will take a moment after this pose to have a look, because I'd love to address your questions as well, should you have any. So they're interesting, really interesting decisions to make on the fly here. It's like how much, because the mask is like its own being. It's really interesting. So how much of the portrait, like what do we choose to emphasize? I was thinking I have the brush pen that perhaps some of it, I was just thinking maybe the portrait beneath the mask could be much kind of softer. And whether you see this kind of practice as like something supporting your work, where you spend much more time on your work. Like doing this kind of stuff is so fast that you can kind of like always do it in any situation. Often we have 3 kids, and often if they're eating or doing their homework and I'm sitting with them, I might just do a quick sketch of them, and they don't hold still for very long. So they're particularly good practice. But yeah, just the decision making process, training that, like stuff that I remember, because I've spent I've done oil paintings where I'd spend a month on each painting, and whatever your practice is like, or wherever you're at right now, I feel like whatever practice you do, it all kind of it all informs each other, and it's really cool in the context of Let's Face It, because all these amazing artists are working in really different medium, and they will have really different approaches to share and stuff. And whatever you practice, you can let that flow into your own way of working, and yeah, it all there's this cumulative effect of like everything we do. And I feel like doing a whole bunch of short sketches, there are things you learn within that which can be really helpful in longer pieces as well. And it's interesting to see the way that different skills are like translatable. Like the realization I had where I was like, oh, I think working with ink so much has really changed the way I use graphite. And yeah, it's really cool. Right now, I'm just wondering, like, what do I want to emphasize? And I feel like it'd be cool to make the mask kind of really give a bit more strength to the outline, to really give it a sense of like it's a portrait of the mask, really, which is really cool. And Joy is in a supporting role.
That's the best way.
There's a really cool silhouette to the mask. So if we're like outlining things to emphasize that silhouette, so you don't need to go over like every line, but just to give a bit of bolder outline to the main silhouette, which includes this kind of like negative space here. All right, and that is our 10 minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was fun to watch. I can't. You just put a line down and leave it there, and it doesn't have to change. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's fun. It can be like that.
Yeah, that's wonderful to watch.
Oh, thank you. Bonita.
Yes.
Thank you for getting dressed up. Awesome.
Ooh, we got pause.
Cool. I'll just have a look over on YouTube and see if there are any questions. There are not. So if anyone, oh, wait a minute. Is it? It says it's live, but wait a minute. What? I hope it is. It says it's live and there's 23 people watching. Maybe someone can tell me if it is or not. I think it is. That's what it's telling me. A bit confusing.
I'll go check on my side, Dylan.
Okay, cool. Because maybe then maybe I just need to refresh something. This is the first time I entered one live stream and then a minute later I started another one. Yes, it's live. Thank you, Ike.
I ended one live stream and then I started another one.
All right, cool.
Yes, it's live. Thank you, Ike.
Because what I'm seeing on my browser is very different to what's happening right here, right now. But okay, it's good that it's live. Let's continue. So yeah, feel free to ask things in the chat. And awesome. Yeah, cool. All right. Thank you to everyone who got dressed up. This is super fun. The ink will be good here. There's a lot of black, which is great.
Oh, great pose.
Yeah, it's really nice. I feel like there's often an interesting balance when it's more than a pure portrait. The kind of play between taking care with the portrait and then there's like this playground where like all the darkness and these big like cartoon style paws, there's and the ears is like it doesn't need the same kind of attention and care as trying to get a face drawn right. So it's really nice to have a play between those kind of things. Cool if in the chat, whether you're in Zoom or YouTube, to let us know where you're joining from. The last live stream I did just before this was bilingual, which was interesting. So a lot of people from German-speaking places and also from other places. So those are the two main languages I can speak. So it was a fun first time I've done a bilingual live stream. And so as you're working along with this, you can I would encourage you just to focus on your process, and it's maybe helpful and of interest to see what I'm doing. But as I know, I kind of imagine you could come back to this if you want to look at and dissect what I'm doing, you could do that. But it's cool just to get into the practice of being in the flow and really observing a lot. Like really make an effort of spending, like having your eyes on what you're drawing a lot, and trying to perceive and realize the relationship between the shapes, the angles and distances, and the more attention you pay to those things, it's like putting pieces of a puzzle together. And at this point so far, it's I feel like it's super fun, whatever medium you're working within, and whatever you're working on. Like at the moment, so far with mine, it's just pure line at the moment, and that's like one process. But if you wanted to render into the line work, or perhaps you've gone straight to graphite and you're doing a lot more hatching and stuff, there are all these kind of different processes which essentially have the same potential to recognize and make decisions, and the way we put things together. which I think is like another way of how things, although potentially disparate and different, cumulatively really all collectively have a great impact upon what we do, whatever we do. Cara, when you looked over to YouTube, was the screen the same as it was on Zoom?
It's slightly behind, like
slightly.
6 seconds, maybe.
Okay, that's great, because maybe it's because I don't have it on my main screen, but when I look back, it's right at the beginning. And it's like,
no. So I'm seeing it's like 6 seconds different.
Okay, that's perfect. Cool. I feel like I don't know, my browser can't handle the fact that, because I still had one stream was ending as the next one started, and it just seems it hasn't quite caught up. This is so cool, Bonita. Okay, I will I come in with the brush pen. We've got like 4 minutes left. And so here I actually have a lid from a jar where I put ink into it and just dilute it. And if I want it really dark, then I'll just go straight into the ink well. And if I want it black, then I'll use a different brush and go right to the black. And so keep like lighter, subtle tones in the face, just for some variation, because filling in the black is going to be super fast. So at the moment, I feel like there's still some time to like add some subtlety to the portrait. The pen I'm using, by the way, here is a Stabilo felt tip fine liner, and they're kind of waterproof, not totally, but you can brush over them and they'll retain the marks that you've made, which is helpful. Not all pens do that, which is unhelpful if you want to layer over it. This looks like a dark beard at the moment, but I think once we've got like black around it, it's gonna it won't look so much like a beard anymore. At least I hope so. We'll see. I definitely don't have anything against beards though. So. Although the brush pen I've been using is a pointed pen, I really love broad edge drawing tools. And so this nice flat brush on Cara's art school, the Kara Bullock Art School, I have a calligraphy pen portraiture class, which is, I love calligraphy pen, and any broad drawing tool. I really enjoy the variety of mark making possibilities. It would have been interesting to go right into it with this brush, actually. That's also a really good exercise when exploring ink, is just to go in full with full intensity, and that'll be very educational and confrontational. But practicing calligraphy, when I got into working with ink, I did pages and pages of calligraphy, just like learning to write again almost. And it's that really teaches you so much about decisive mark making. And for those of us who use the Roman alphabet and are familiar with it, it's this so recognizable, these shapes, and learning to do them in a really clear, decisive way also translates really well to mark making in drawing and painting. Ah, time's up, too fast. It's interesting here with the black on black. Though I almost can't perceive any edge with the edge of the hand. I just want to keep a little bit of a differentiation between the shape of the paw and the rest of this dark shape, just to make it a bit like, I totally understand what I'm looking at when I'm looking at Bonita, but then for the sake of the drawing, I feel like just adding that highlight, which actually doesn't exist, is just helpful for the legibility of what's on the paper. Cool. Thank you so much, Bonita. Awesome. Do we have other dressed up guests? I'm thinking I could also try posing and drawing myself at the same time. But I'd love to have some other people if we have other people dressed up. And also, if you're in the Zoom meeting and you're not dressed up, you're also welcome to get drawn. Cool.
Dylan, did you see Sarah's question in the group?
When one is a beginner, what is a good way to deal with the feeling of feeling disheartened by lack of improvement? I think trying something different could help. Like stepping away. I'm not sure what your practice is like, but if you're trying, for me, I noticed that I was stuck in this loop, and it took someone kind of looking at what I was doing and recognizing, oh, you're kind of afraid to commit to what you're doing. And then like, how about you try this thing? And so I tried something new, which I've been talking about, which was uncomfortable in the beginning. And then returning to things, or even sometimes I'll feel a bit stuck with something that I'm working on, and then I'm just like, I'll mix it up a bit. And I feel like what I've been saying about the collective experience and practice that we have all informing each other, that that I feel like if you try something else, just step away from it for a bit and then can like return to it with kind of a new way of looking at it. That I notice that time and again as a beginner, but also sometimes now if I feel like I'm working on something and I'm like, I thought I could draw. Like, why isn't this working? That sometimes it just takes stepping away from it a bit and doing something else. But also it's really awesome to have I haven't really done it for a while, but to have a group of people that like give each other feedback. I feel that was like part of what was great when I did a mentorship for 1.5 years, and we would meet regularly. And even if it's just like a group of friends where you show each other your work, and you're like, if you would like critique, like unsolicited critique, I think is it shouldn't be given. But if people really are open to it and want to hear it, And that's a special mindset to be in. But if you just want someone to look at your work and be like, who knows your work a bit, and can see like what your trajectory is, and maybe what you want to get to have someone who can look at it with that kind of perspective, that can be super helpful, I think. So those are a couple of things that are quite different. Trying something different, or having some actual feedback and communication with people who are also in the image making life. Yeah,
thank you,
Dylan. Sarah or Sara, would you like to be drawn?
I would love to. I've never done it. I've never posed, so I'll just be still.
Well, I'm sure you'll do it perfectly. Cool. I have almost every week I have people come and sit with me and draw and be drawn who have maybe never done it. So I think you'll be okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Bonita. That was awesome. I'll give you a prompt to respond to for the pose, okay? Make sure you're comfortable as you respond to it. But we have the theme of Halloween. So you've just had let's say that the last people that we've drawn, you've had a wizard, a dragon, and a giant cat just come knocking at your door. You're muted. If you'd like to, you can unmute. But you can just respond to that. So how would you respond when those three come knocking? Cool. All right. So this is something that I do with my weekly Tuesday sessions, is we give each other prompts for the poses, and it's super fun.
Don't make me laugh.
Okay, I'll try not to. So the session that we did just before this, because this is a Tuesday, we're dressed up, and each person would give someone a prompt for the next pose, and it's really great the way we get to know each other. So when I started hosting these sessions back in 2020, March of 2020, I would give all the prompts. I'm like, you're happy, you're sad, you just hurt your toe, you feel disgusted, you're in love. So I would have like this list of prompts. Thank you, Dana, for the idea back in the day. And eventually it was like, oh, it'd just be really cool if the people who are drawing gave each other prompts. And that, I felt like it was such a nice thing, because then we really started getting to know each other, and sometimes it's just like, just give us a prompt, something that happened today. And at the time, everyone was in lockdown and kind of going through the same social distancing, just hanging out at home kind of stuff. And people got to share just their mundane experiences, or hard things, happy things. Like, people just did that. And sometimes it's just really all from imagination, and that can be super fun too. So we end up with a really interesting, spontaneous narrative to the poses, and the way people respond is also a really fun. It's nice to see the way that people react and improvise. And now that we've been doing it so long, it's really almost every week, there's always new people are always welcome. So they're often people who've never been there before. And there's also a group who've been there almost every Tuesday for over 2 years now. So some of us know each other really well, and it's just been so cool. And that storytelling element of it has been a really nice part. really has given a life and interactive element to it, which didn't exist before. And I used Sketchy a lot, which is now called Museum by Sketchy app. When I really got into portraiture, but I found that live interactive element so much fun, because then there's even if it's a brief meeting, like here, meeting each other for the first time, and it's just a really nice way to connect and spend time together and do something creative together. Sarah, if you have any, after this pose, if you have any more specific questions about that feeling, or the urge for improvement, and yeah, anyone feel free to ask anything, really. It's I think it's really helpful being able to watch. It has been super helpful for me to be able to watch the way that people do things, because I remember I was 28 when I really started taking art making seriously. Until then, it's just kind of, I sketched a bit, but I never imagined it would be something I did a lot of. But it's always the thing that was the most fun. I just didn't think I would do it. But then once I made the decision to do it, I was like, how do you even learn? How do you get good and better? I don't understand how to do it. And I feel like watching people's process was very demystifying and helpful, just to see the way people do things. I did a class, an online class, which involved doing master studies, which I also found to be incredibly helpful, where we took paintings of that they were all of, well, we were encouraged to choose artwork by artists who are no longer alive, because contemporary art can be it's wonderful, but there are certain pieces and certain artists which have really stood the test of time and are really remarkable. And if you look at their work, look at work that you admire and love, and start to kind of put yourself in the place of the person creating it by doing a study of their work, start to gain some insight into the process they went through to actually create thing, or you start to realize, why does this piece actually move me? Why does this like emotionally speak to me? There's something about this painting which I just can't articulate, which I love. And then by doing a study of work that you find really moving and powerful, it can start to, it can give you insight into what it is that you really, what makes art worth looking at. Because I feel like, I imagine many of us have this aspiration, like we've seen so much beautiful work and we would like to create something beautiful, and there can be like those feelings of feeling like, oh, like when am I going to get better, putting in all this practice and what's happening. But then I've certainly had key moments where things have been suggested to me, and I've tried things like master studies or working with ink, or being in a community which exchanged kind of feedback. There have been things that have been helpful, that have really, like the repetitive practice is important. But once you put it into a context, or like a certain kind of drive and alignment of like, what is it I'm actually trying to do? And it may just be one particular painting that you love, and you're like, I want to paint a painting like that painting. And then just doing studies of that painting will start to kind of filter through into the way you look at things and the decisions you can make when you're working on things. And there's a bit of a stigma around copying stuff, which I hope in Let's Face It is not an issue, because people are drawing along with the guidance of the artists. And it's really about learning and studying. And then the experience that you take from the piece that you're working on, then that informs your next piece or your decision making when you're like, okay, this is the kind of thing that really speaks to me and I want to try. That's really hard when you're like, you have this ideal that you want to achieve, like this is my dream image and I want to create it, and then you're stuck in it and you're like, this is not my dream. This is so hard. But moving towards being able to make that thing, like it's cool just to take the steps that get closer to realizing that kind of thing. And it may lead you in directions that you never would have imagined, even beyond the actual physical act of creating an image. Like, I have still got a decadent 45 seconds, so I might just fill in something in the background. You've done amazingly, Sarah. Thank you so much for never having posed before. Really thrown in the deep end with a 10-minute pose. My usual Tuesday sessions, we do between 30 seconds and 6 minutes. And when people have never been before, I usually give them like 30 seconds or a minute. So you're doing amazingly. Oh, there we go. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you for your patience, everyone. And I love what you say. I'm you know, this is why I signed up for the course, because some of the teachers, well, I've seen some of the teachers, and I love looking at other people's process. Mm-hmm. And I've only started drawing recently, and it was out of a kind of a challenge of my son's challenge. And
oh, cool.
It's really hard to, because he said, oh, you can't even draw a stick man. And I went, what? Well, I'll learn now. It doesn't matter how old I am. You can always learn something new. But I find definitely that I need the people to get that constructive feedback from people, you know, that kind of suggestion.
Yeah.
I think it's time to find people that would comment and say, you know, have you tried this? Or
yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. And yeah, finding people, like it can be very vulnerable to be like, here's this thing I've made, what do you think? But if everyone's like on the same page and they're all going through the same kind of thing, and be like, oh, like, yeah, it can be humbling. And I know sometimes when you get critique, if you've invested yourself in something, and then you kind of like, ugh. So it depends the spirit with which you approach it. If it's like, I want this to be praised, but that can be really hard. But with what you've said, like you're seeking improvement, but you don't see it happening. And I think with that kind of that urge to learn, I think that's the right attitude to ask for feedback, and just to be open to whatever comes, because whatever people say, you can either be like, oh, I don't think so. or it might be like, that's right. I never saw it, and now you've said it, and now I see it, and I can't unsee it. Because yeah, that sometimes there are those things that we're so involved in it that we don't really see what's happening. Yeah. You're welcome. My pleasure. Thank you for being here.
And can I add something?
Sure.
Sarah, something I love about Let's Face It is that like people are so supportive and encouraging in there, and there's people all over the place. Some beginners, some who've been painting or drawing for a long time. So you know, and if you don't share and ask, like, you won't get that feedback, and it can be scary to do it your first time. But there's the way I look at it, there's always going to be somebody below me and somebody ahead of me in my journey, you know. And but I think that if you're looking for support and encouragement and just like a safe place, then you found it. And same with Dylan's group here that he does as well. He's so encouraging and supportive as well. So
yeah, so very much look forward to it, Cara, because it's community is the word, isn't it? In terms of, because it doesn't matter what the criticism is, it depends on how it's offered as well. Like some people can make harsh comments, but coming from a good place, and that's good. Or the other way around, people can make much more superficial comments, but it's not coming from a good place and it hurts or whatever. So thank you.
Yeah, enjoy the journey. Cool, thank you. Is there someone else who'd like to be drawn? I'm wondering if I could set this up so that I pose and draw myself at the same time. That could be funny. So I think it will work if I do this. Just bear with me for a moment. I'll take off my headphones. So I just need to be able to see. So I'll take off my glasses so I can't. In a minute. I can do this so that I'm bigger, and then I can put this over here, and we can draw me. Is this going to work? How's it look, Cara? Someone say something.
Yeah, it looks good.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, good. Hold still.
I will try. So if there's no one else that wants to be drawn, then perhaps this will be the last drawing of the session. We've been here for about an hour. I'm happy to keep going, but it's we'll just see what happens. But
and Dylan, if I disappear, it's because I've got to go pick my son up from school. So
okay. If
I do disappear, thank you all for coming, and Dylan, thank you so much for hosting this today. You're awesome, and I love you so much.
See you soon. All right. What should I do? Right, I shouldn't get too carried away with it. I've got to be able to do it. Oh, I have a.
That was really cool.
I have a hat. Something like this, perhaps. Wow. I wonder if I can do this and draw at the same time. Let's try.
Wow.
All right, so you've got to choose whether my eyes is looking at you or over at the corner. Just kind of make a choice and stick with that. This is interesting. A really helpful thing about this timed practice stuff is that if something, I feel like it's a really safe way to practice things. Like what I said earlier, if you've been working on something for days or maybe even a month and you're so invested in it, like I was afraid to ruin things because I had this dream idea, the ideal of like, oh, this is the image I want to make. And in its underripe, undeveloped state, it's still a possibility. And each stroke I make can take it away from the dream. And through that kind of fear of doing something wrong, I would just like not commit to doing anything. And I think that comes from a place of just not having done much yet and having really high hopes for what I wanted to do, to just bring something of beauty into the world. And then when I started drawing, I was like, this is actually not beautiful. This is not what I wanted to do. And the great thing about these timed drawing sessions has been that each, if it's 10 minutes and it doesn't work out, it's only 10 minutes. It's okay. And I think it's, on the one hand, it's much easier to be bold and courageous when, there's not so much on the line, there's not so much at stake. And so you may bring yourself into a position to be able to try things that you wouldn't have otherwise. And if someone had told me that years ago, when I was just afraid to make marks on paper, I think that would have been really helpful. I'll stop moving my mouth for a moment. Other people feel free to speak. Oh, look, I put the ear up here, but it's actually, or maybe no, it's just in the wrong place. That's okay, we can cover that up with the black of the hat. So this session, rather than like instructional, this is how we see and perceive things, this kind of thing is like I feel like a bread and butter kind of foundational practice to the way that I draw. And in my tutorials and lessons, sometimes I get into that, the way of looking and measuring and observing things. And that's cool in the format of the longer lessons, that there's the opportunity to get into a different kind of mindset and a different observational state. But I feel like this kind of just a brief observational practice is really super cool. I love it, and I've just learned so much doing this. I apologize for shifting from position. I've probably moved more than any other model who's posed for us. Back to the idea of frustration with the lack of improvement, I would say if you can let that be a motivating force, then it could be really great. Because that, I guess in some way that frustration comes from a place of knowing that what you're doing is not where you want it to be yet. And maybe just keep going and never really know where we want to be, but just enjoy the process of making things. And a big part of improvement is definitely just putting in the time and practicing. If you manage to enjoy the process, that's a big plus too. Makes it easier. And also that each piece you make, if you can find something that you like about it, or if you're able to articulate why you're not happy with it, then each piece can be a step on the path to next time making different choices or focusing on what you felt was successful and maybe leaning into that a bit more. With a beard or hair, like with Joy, I like talked about selective looking at a thing. If you can realize, oh, I don't want to draw all that stuff in the background, you don't have to. And I, especially in this kind of quick time frame, just some kind of abbreviated mark making rather than trying to draw things the way they actually are can help communicate like a sense of chaotic, messy beard hair without having to actually get buried in the details of actually doing it. And somehow it still communicates the sense of that thing. All right. That was, I'm not sure I've ever drawn out of the corner of my eye like this. I'm not sure I've ever drawn myself in a live stream. Or drawn a portrait without my glasses on.
Amazing how you've done that, really.
Thank you.
Wow.
That was fun. Perhaps that's it for today. It's 11:15 for me, and I may be woken up at 5 o'clock in the morning by my 7-year-old. It's really been a pleasure having you all here, and thank you to everyone that we drew. It was so much fun. And for those of you who are signed up to Let's Face It, enjoy, soak up all of the inspiration and lessons that are there to be had. And anyone on YouTube who's not signed up yet, if you're interested, now's the time to sign up. But at any time, it's totally cool, and it's an honor to be able to be a part of it and to share this experience that I've gone through, to be able to pass it on, and in whatever way I'm able to share. If there's something helpful in there for you, then that's really awesome, and it's an honor to be in a position to be able to share in that way. So I'll just look here at the drawings I've done. You can, if you're on Instagram, Facebook as well, but I'm most active on Instagram, and you're sharing your work, you can tag me. I'm at Dylan Sara _Dylan _Sara. And I would love to see what you've done. You can also post it in the Facebook community. It'd be really cool there as well to see what everyone's done. I would love to see the work you've done, and I look forward to seeing what you do throughout the year. And hope you enjoy my lessons, and I hope you enjoy everyone else's. And I do a lot of live streaming. So if you've never been to one of my live streams, I do a lot of them. So you can come and draw with me. And also with my dear friend, Shannon Hagen, we have a podcast draw along interview show where we have guests on. And someday Cara is going to come on. But yeah, we've had 35 episodes so far, and we have inspiring creative guests. As we draw longer portraits, and sometimes they go up to 3 hours. So it's a really different format than this kind of fast timed drawing. So yeah, there are lots of opportunities to learn together. And put your Instagram account names in the chat if you have them, or for the Let's Face It people, we can connect in the Facebook group. But it's really nice to, like, whenever we have these opportunities to connect with each other, it's great. Yeah. And like we were talking about, the community is so important, and learning and growing together, and just such a cool thing. And so nice that we have this technology available to us to be able to share in this way. So yeah, thank you everyone. Thank you to the YouTubers. Thank you to the Zoomers. Hi Luke. I don't know if you just arrived right now and said happy Halloween, but we're finished. Thank you for joining. Thanks everyone. And I'll see you around on the internet. Take care and happy Halloween. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.